Hello and welcome to the channel. I hope that you are all well and enjoying your fishing. Some of you will be aware of an English angler called Jonathan Barnes, who is a very accomplished river fly fisher in both surface and subsurface fishing. I have indeed tied up some perdigons for him in the past, but his penchant is for dry fly fishing, and I've put a link to his website in the description below. There's an old wet fly pattern called a Jingler, which was first tied well over 100 years ago, and it was a very successful fly in the borders area of England and Scotland. John took some of the components from the Jingler, transferred them to a dry fly and tied a soft hackle dry fly, which is now known as John's Jingler, and that's the fly that I'm going to tie today. I don't tie my version in quite the same way as John, but I'm sure he won't mind the odd tweak or two. I'll give you the materials as we go along. In the vise I have a size 16 dry fly hook, and I'll be using 10-0 lemon thread. Right, I'm going to start this a few mil behind the eye. There's quite a lot of things going on at the front of the fly when we get to the end of the tying. Take off the excess. John is a little ambivalent regarding a tail. Sometimes he puts it on, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he uses CDC, sometimes he uses partridge. Not cartridge, but a partridge. Or maybe he used the cartridge to get the partridge, who knows. So I'm going to put on just a few fibres of CDC to represent the tail. That's a little bit too long, so I'll shorten that up. Yeah, that's better. Now this is there really for movement, to attract the trout. Right, now for the body, I'm going to use a mix of olive hare's ear and UV hare's ear. Just mash them up together and you get something like that. Now, as we are going to try and represent the large dark olive, that's the dubbing that I'm going to use. Just make a decent noodle on the thread and tie in the body, like so. Pull back the fibres. Just going to trim off these excess fibres, these longer fibres. Get rid of those, like so. Right, now for the wing I'm going to use just one CDC feather, and this is a natural grey CDC feather, and we'll tie the feather in the same way that Jonathan does, which is thus. Give it a couple of turns and then pull it down to the sort of length that we'd be looking for, like so. Put a wrap behind. Like so, and hopefully that will not pull out, and trim up the excess. Just tidy up a little bit there. Right, now we're going to tie in a dun hackle, and this is just from a neck, and I'm going to clean off some of this fibre at the bottom so I can tie it in. And trim up the stalk. Right, we're going to put one wind behind the wing, like so, and then tie in front of the wing. And try and keep these as close together as you can, and this will form the stability base for the soft hackle. Yeah, I think that should be enough, and tie that off. And trim up the excess. Right, now, as John would say, that is a nice little fly as it stands, but now we're going to make it a little bit different and important. And we're going to tie in partridge hackle at the front as the soft hackle. Now you can use other soft hackles, in fact John has done so, but today I'm going to use this partridge hackle, and I'm just going to put those hackle pliers on the front and pull back the fibres so that I can tie it in. And I'll just trim off that excess there. And I'm going to use hackle pliers to wind this in. Right, I'm just going to give this a couple of turns and wind it through the hackle to give it the support, and tie it off. And trim up the excess. And pull back the hackles. Just going to push back some of that material there and trim up some of these excess hackles and fibres. Right, now before I tie it off, I'm going to put a little bit of super glue onto the thread. And tie it off. And trim up the excess. And that is the fly finished. Now, as you can see, we have this hackle at the front which depicts legs absolutely perfectly, and everything moves in the breeze and in the flow and the current of the water. Now, this is a generic fly and can represent all sorts of ephemeras. This is, as I said, the large dark olive, but you might want to tie it in a larger size, maybe a size 14 or a 12, and that could represent the great danica, the mayfly. And in a smaller size is really any type of ephemera. And in fact, I have used it over here in the evening, and I am convinced that as it grew darker, the day, that is, not the fly, they were mistaking it for a caddis, and it certainly got attacked on a very regular basis, and a lot of the attacks totally missed the fly, but it was an amazing hour before it got dark. So it can be used for all sorts of representation. Do give it a go. It's a terrific fly, and it's got so much going for it with all this movement and these legs at the front, and it's called John's Jingler. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're not a subscriber, hit the bell. It's free. Give it a thumbs up. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for viewing. Bye.